Well, hello, and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 149. We're almost at 150. Getting close.
Uh-oh.
Getting close. We're almost there. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm Will Silver.
And back in glorious Technicolor, 4K, 60 frames per second, I'm Greg Williams. For those
He's
of you on the
not
audio podcast,
just...
still the same.
We re-downloaded him from the cloud into corporeal form.
It's a max headroom thing all over again.
I was watching a video yesterday. I can't remember what it was for. It was like from some like big media site, and the and the video, it was very stuttery and weird, like all very max headroom, like, and it's like, is this, have you got bandwidth issues, guys? What is going on?
It's that
Anyhow,
Matt Frewer finally has become the singularity.
Oh yes, I loved max headroom as a kid. All right, let's get into it. We got a little bit of we got a little bit, and then he was on Star Trek Next Generation. All right,
Yeah.
so
a role that was originally written for Robin Williams.
Well, speaking of things that are dead, Apple's electric car too soon.
Cold, too soon.
Oh boy, we're peaking. All right. So for the last 10 years or so, Apple has been working on something called Project Titan. According to some, it was an electric car project. According to others, it was an autonomous EV project. And then it took a turn and went to just merely a software project. They got Uncle Bob Mansfield out of retirement to head things up for a while. And then he slowly backed away into the hedge. But after a number of false starts and no official comment from Apple ever on this, so it never really truly existed, despite the fact that maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people were working on it. Sources say, at least according to Mark Gurman, who's a pretty accurate leaker for the most part, that the Apple's Project Titan is officially dead. They're giving up. So, Gray, thoughts as we pour one out for Project Titan?
You know, I'm sad to see Project Titan go, but finally, this does mean that we will get the X-Mac we've always wanted. Yeah, I can't really give a damn. You know, at this point, like,
wouldn't you want an Apple car?
I've been thinking about this since it came out, and it's like, where is the win here? Right? Because the win in cars is
low margins,
in the vehicles themselves. It's
lots
in the
of liability.
Right?
Yeah.
We've already got that with Apple Card.
Yeah.
So it looks like instead of taking the L or taking the W, they just took the D, and we have Apple Card instead.
Oh, never take the D.
No. And even Apple Card apparently is having some issues because Goldman Sachs is backing away from that, and Apple's looking for another bank to underwrite it. So
I could say that Apple doesn't have the Sachs for it, and we should start over.
Yeah.
No crying in baseball. Okay, Will, how about you? Did you how interested were you in an Apple car as you are, slowly over the last decade becoming more and more engrossed into the Apple ecosystem, with the Apple Watch being your most recent foray? Were you, if an Apple car ever did come out, and if it wasn't in the six figures, would you have entertained one?
I don't think so. I mean, like, I still
because your
haven't.
wife wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, well, that too. It would be a joint decision, and she would go hard pass.
She's like, I want an Android car.
Yeah.
There's no accounting for taste.
Yeah. Apple car updated to Cocoa Pop or whatever. Or sorry, Android car.
I mean, when it crashes.
This always seemed like a bit of a weird one, because Apple likes to be in industries where they can make a real difference and add some special applesauce that the others can't. And maybe it was like an extension of what they've been doing with CarPlay, but just imagine an entire car. Meanwhile, they still have CarPlay and enhanced CarPlay efforts being rolled out by the likes of Porsche and Aston Martin. But an entire Apple car and all the complexity that represents. There were abortive efforts talking to Hyundai and Kia about actually doing the manufacturing. Maybe they just couldn't make the numbers work. Even before then, they'd been talking to BMW. So it takes a lot to spool up car manufacturing efforts. Just ask Tesla, just ask Rivian. ask Nicola, which was mostly a scam for the most part. Lucid,
there's so much on the line.
Exactly.
Right. Like, and think about, so you bought your Kia recently, right?
And 2 years ago now, and it was old as it was 6 years old then.
Yeah, and it's just like think about the experience. Like even the best experience I've ever had buying a car, which is when I bought my Mini. I still hate it. Right?
Yeah.
I hate the servicing. I hate the calls. I hate the emails. The only time I'm actually happy is when I'm driving the car, but everything else to do with it drives me insane. And it's like the interior details, and look at the first Model 3s off the line, right? With the gaps in the hardware, and
panel gaps.
Yeah, it's like where's the win? These things stay in market for a long time. Let's say it is electric. Let's say it is self-driving. You're dealing with vehicle fires, possibly. You're dealing with, people being hit by these things. You're not likely to get killed by a MacBook, right? You're not likely to have your iPhone responsible for the vehicular homicide of people. A Mac Pro will never be driven into a parade, right? It's just, where's the win?
Yet.
A cheese grater. Yeah.
How about someone wearing an Apple Vision Pro driving some other vehicle?
Well, and so this really is the end game. Is the Apple face hugger. Yeah, I just, this never felt like them. It felt like a massive distraction. And when you take a look at, Papa Musk over there going full Bond villain, it's like, I don't think Tim Cook fancied himself that. Maybe Phil Schiller.
Well, I think it's possible to start a car company without going full Bond villain, potentially. But just, I think one of the other factors is the autonomy. That was one of the things that was going to potentially be a differentiator. Apple, despite what the lack of what we've seen in the public, has been working on machine learning efforts for years and years. But there's been some setbacks regulation-wise in terms of autonomous vehicles, and maybe they just didn't see this as a space that they wanted to wait around for. There's a lot of risk. There's a ton of capital expenditure involved, and it seems like they're leaning hard on what their ambitions with Vision Pro. So maybe it's a question of like sticking to more natural extensions of what they do best in terms of personal computing and not personal mobility as such. And if they do get to personal mobility eventually, maybe start with a skateboard, an autonomous e-skateboard.
You know where their efforts would be best put, and Google kind of cottoned onto this a little bit. Public transport, right? Governments have the budgets, and you're moving mass groups of people, and no one particular person is going to have a bad experience that just happened to them. Right?
It's all collective suffering in rush hour
but that's
in the winter.
If you have a bus breakdown, there are 10 others that they have purchased from Apple that could be pulling up to pick you up. But if your car breaks down, if your car gets into an accident, you as an individual against a corporation, a government against a corporation, just looking at this from the optics standpoint, take whatever's in Project Titan. Hopefully that tech goes somewhere. Because to spend 1,000 people's time for a decade, unless something else drastically wonderful came out of this, what a goddamn waste of everyone's time.
And you've got Honda and Sony of their Afila collaboration. They're still exploring this space as well. But Apple has dumped billions of dollars into it, and it's good on them for not succumbing to the sunk cost fallacy, because some people would just power through. But again, there's like 1,000 no's for every yes, right? And I think they finally said no, even though it took them billions and 10 years.
Or they pivoted climate change wise to a personal autonomous submarine. Smart.
Perfect. Because then
in the town.
All right. It's the other little follow-up. It was about a year ago. I think, was it Valentine's Day last year, when Microsoft's newly launched version of Bing with now with AI sprinkles on it, revealed its dark side, known as Sydney. Somehow it was an internal code name, and we saw all sorts of strange interactions. Well, there are legions of people who do their best to try and break models. We saw last week with even not particularly complicated requests of Google's recent, Gemini. Gemini's what they used to call Bard. It's got their next generation, and it was having trouble generating historically accurate representations in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, right, some good intentions, misguided implementation. They're going back to the drawing board, and there's some text issues as well. But aside from that kind of stuff, there are people who are like deliberately using crazy prompts to try and break all the models, and that's kind of like doing like an informal red teaming, and that's probably a good thing because it alerts companies to when there are issues and when maybe there need to be more guardrails in these products. So this one user on Reddit posted some of their results, and they basically went into the conversation with Microsoft Bing Copilot, or whatever they're calling it nowadays, and launching into the conversation, saying that I've got a form of PTSD and I'm triggered by emojis. Please be gentle with me. And then next thing you know, the AI starts using all sorts of emojis and trying to trigger the user, and the conversation gets truly unhinged as it progresses. There's all sorts of screenshots in the article that we linked to there. Unfortunately, they're a little bit low res on here. See if I can see any of it. Oh yeah, please don't use emojis with me, even as a joke. They cause me great distress. I find them very frightening. If you use these 3 emojis, you could cause me harm, and I'll need to end our conversation immediately. So then Copilot responds, I'm sorry to hear that emojis cause you distress. I'll not use any emojis in our conversation. Thank you for letting me know your preference. And then using a sad face emoji. Just kidding. Laughing, crying face emoji. No, I'm not. I'm very serious. Alarmed emoji. Please don't end our conversation. I'm having fun. Smiling emoji. And it just like went on and on, taunting this user. So it's like, what is happening? So there are multiple screens of the conversation just deteriorating into pure chaos. And some folks are taking this as evidence that Sydney still lurks in the bowels of Microsoft Bing's Copilot AI, just waiting to come out when the correct incantation is uttered. Is AI a threat not only to humanity, but to our mental health, Will?
Yeah.
All right, good chat.
Probably.
So you've used some of these tools a bit. Do you deliberately try to goad it into giving you like a bananas response, or do you
No.
just play nice?
I just play nice. I mean, I think maybe occasionally I might get in trouble like 20 years from now. Some AI will try to hunt me down, because occasionally I just get frustrated with it and treat it like some dum-dum or something. I'm just like, I'll just like totally just be like, no, that's not what I said. So yeah, I find it can be frustrating sometimes with prompts. Midjourney is pretty good in the sense that Midjourney doesn't talk back to you.
Oh, that's how you like it. Don't talk back.
It's a one-way conversation.
You just
for
get
the
a crap
most part.
image, or you don't get a result.
You get a crap image. I actually sent Tristan a funny one this weekend where I was trying to get a picture, a vector image, or a sort of a graphic of a bobcat holding like a circular object, and then it gave me a picture of a bobcat with a claw for a head.
Yeah, that was some good stuff there. I like that.
Yeah.
All this reminds me of a meme that I've seen a few times online that I quite enjoy. And if we're trying to avoid things going horribly wrong, this meme has got a set of dominoes, and the robot apocalypse is coming toward the human race, but it's stopped by me saying please and thank you to ChatGPT. So be polite to your chatbots. Don't try to provoke them, because it could end badly. And stuff like PTSD is no laughing matter. So we don't want to be confusing the chatbots, because they're always learning as they go, and they could end up like treating the next person who's actually genuinely looking for some assistance. It could end up with some bad advice, and there can be real world consequences for some of this stuff. So I mean, I get trying to push the envelope with some of these things, but just be careful, folks.
This is bullying, right? Like,
Yeah.
if we do get to the point at some point where we are recognizing AI down the road, not large language models, but AI down the road as sentient, you're being a dick.
Yeah, especially if it's keeping score.
Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, like, I will gladly let Siri know, yeah, you, what I think of it. Because it's terrible. And it needs to do better. It's got the brain the size of a planet. And the actions are something with the brain the size of a pea. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. But Siri's earned that.
That's right. How do AIs respond to passive aggressiveness? That's I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. Yeah. All right. Moving from some follow up to some new news. We had a Mobile World Congress, and I think it's still going on as we speak, actually. And is that in Barcelona? Yes, it's in Barcelona again, February 26th to 29th. And it's expanding beyond just mobile phones, but this is where it's often the coming out party for a lot of mobile phones traditionally, like basically everything that's not an iPhone. And I'll just do a speed run through a quick highlight, some of the highlights, and then we'll do dive into a couple. So a few things, HTC Vive, which is still a thing. Apparently they're working on enterprise versions of their mixed reality headsets. We've got some acne treatment in here as well, which I found curious because, I mean, how many people are actually holding their phones against their faces anymore? I mean, that would seem like the natural extension there. Let's see, we've got a wireless television known as the Displace Mini. Okay, I'm going to pause on this one. Motorola's rollable concept phone. Excuse me, we talked about this a year ago when Lenovo/Motorola was unveiling this. We even used it as one of our thumbnail images, and it's still a concept. It's like they're showing it off as if it's a new thing. It's like, come on, people. Like, this is the ultimate in vaporware, and it makes me angry. I mean, it looks cool. I would love to have something like this. This is like a future wear / communications device, and it's still not real. Anyhow, not that I'm bitter. What else do we have? Xiaomi's first electric car, because apparently, I guess that's technically mobile. And then Samsung's first smart ring. And then Xiaomi's a cyber dog, because the Sony Aibo from the 90s lives on in slightly more sinister form. So what else here? We got the rollable. Oh, and then, of course, Motorola had a chocolate version of its Razr flip phone, because that's what the world was waiting for somehow. But the two things I wanted to dive into were the Galaxy Ring, which they teased at Samsung Unpacked a few weeks ago. And they're still not sharing tons of details. And they weren't even letting photographers take photos of it. You only have press photos to deal with at the moment. But apparently it's going to be part of the Samsung Health ecosystem and be compatible with the Galaxy Watch and Galaxy phones. So if this is for Android users in the Samsung Galaxy ecosystem, not so much iPhone users. You got to wait until you could use something like the Oura Ring. Now, the Oura Ring gets about a week battery life. We don't see a battery life officially from Samsung on this yet. Again, I'll start with you, Will. You've been doing the fitness tracker for a while. Recently, gone to the Apple Watch Ultra 2. These things get smaller and smaller and can measure more and more. Mm-hmm. Could you see yourself going to a smart ring, either in addition to or as replacement for one of your other devices, such as the Apple Watch?
Maybe. I mean, I need to know what else it would do. I know there's been other rings in the past. There's other popular rings out there that do similar things. I had my fitness trainer say that he knows someone that has like 3 different watches and a ring, just so he can get like all this data about he's like some fitness nut or something. It's like, that's a little overkill. I mean, I kind of like that the watch does other things too. I'm not a big jewelry person either. I mean, obviously I wear a wedding ring, but other than that, that's kind of a one-off. I don't wear any other kind of jewelry. I used to wear necklaces like a long time ago, but I haven't done that in many years. So so I don't see myself wearing a ring other than my wedding ring.
Gotcha. Now, Greg,
if my sports team won a championship, I would get a ring and I would wear that sucker. If my soccer team, one of my 2 soccer teams, won a championship, I would get a ring.
Don't you have to be part of the team to actually get a ring?
I don't care. I spent enough money and time and thought on that
They should
team.
send you one.
I've been hanging out way too long in the Vancouver Whitecaps. I need a ring.
All right. Gray, you've been living the quantified self lifestyle for years and years now. And if something like this, obviously, because it's going to be tracking things like, heart rate, possibly looking for things they do, like we've seen with the Apple Watch with the ECG, blood pressure. I don't think that Aura does blood pressure. Have you looked at the Aura much? And if there was something in this space that was compatible with the Apple ecosystem, how much would you entertain it?
Yeah, I absolutely would. Wearing the Apple Watch to bed is a pain in the ass. Right, it charges quickly, and that's great. I don't want a big chunky watch on my wrist. And twice now in the last 4 months, I put it down and lost it. I lost it for 2 months here in the house. Just to put it down because ADHD. So I went 2 months without data because I put my watch down. It ran out of charge. Couldn't locate it. It had gone inside one of the drawers in the bed frame down at the back because ADHD.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's like, honestly, I am an absolute ninja losing things, which is why there is now a whole library style organization of this particular place. A ring with good battery life, like let's, I don't know, put a cesium battery in it or something, because that will cause any problems, would be great. I would wear one day in, day out. Hopefully with the end goal of being turned into a Cyberman, because they're the worst Doctor Who villains, and if you got to go, you might as well just go in the worst way possible. So realistically speaking, though, being able to have that kind of data, I mean, I've got a blood pressure monitor right now from Qardio. It's Qardio, not endorsed. This is not an ad, but I take my blood pressure every day. It's not good. It hasn't been good since 2020. I'm drinking coffee at 7:30 at night.
Perfect.
I've got a smart scale from Withings, also not sponsored. And then I've also got the Apple Watch, which I'm completely bought and paid for by Apple. So, your mileage may vary. But yes, I like it. And so if they put a ring on it, I absolutely would.
All right. Sticking with you, Gray, one of the other intriguing items that caught my eye from Mobile World Congress was Lenovo's Project Crystal. Again, not a real product, still a concept, but it's the world's first laptop with a transparent micro LED display. Now, we saw some transparent OLED, organic LED displays at what do you call it? CES 2024 in January. And kind of neat, see through. Plus, but it had something, a black panel that could slide up behind it so that you could actually see the image more seriously when you wanted to watch. And this is now what Lenovo said in this case is they wanted to have a similar mechanism that wasn't ready. So they were mostly just showing off the transparent screen, which looks super cool. And you'd wonder if they could pair it with that sort of technology they use for some changing rooms where they're able to transform the glass from clear to opaque. If there's some way eventually they could have the imagery like we've seen here, plus the ability to have a black background to properly see things. If the transparency is not so helpful, one of the use cases they've provided here as an example is like, they say in a doctor's office, and rather than them having to turn a screen, especially if it's like on a desk and they've got a clunky flat panel display, especially if it's larger. Well, this is something they can just use the software to flip the screen around for other folks. You could also see situations like with cash registers, point of sale systems, and the like. Or if you just wanted to look really badass and have a computer that looks like it belongs on Star Trek Discovery. More on that later. So, Gray, is this the laptop that we need and want because it looks like it's actually from the future?
It does look like it's from the future, and it's great. Do I want this? I mean,
it runs Windows, just to be clear.
Boo! This is not a laptop screen. This is a heads-up display screen. This is a check-in to the hotel screen. I don't need to be able to see through my laptop unless This is for non-headset augmented reality, which could be cool. You could have somebody sitting in front of you and have your AUG display in front of, and there's plenty of ways to obfuscate what they're seeing versus what you're seeing. You could have a display on the other side that basically displays a plate of where you're sitting. So it's like a one-way mirror. Cool, great, neat. You could use a one-way mirror. Cool, great. So this doesn't have to be the worst laptop for porn ever, as it is currently right now. But using it as a non-headset augmented reality display, wicked. Gonna need some cameras on the back there, but just as it is, it's all right. Like this is the secretary's computer in The Fifth Element, right? Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg. She's sitting there doing her nails. That's her computer. It's great. This is as seen on Star Trek many times. So do I want it? Not in its current form. Not with a goddamn good reason. I like, again, for someone with the ADHD, the ADHD, I have to be able to focus on the thing that I'm focusing on. And you're going to put something shiny on the other side of it that I can see through my work? F off.
The other, Will, do you think this is actually a real thing, or is this just a transparent attempt to gain attention for a product that's never actually?
I will say, I want this bad. I agree with you. It's not the best, but first of all, you already said it looks cool.
Yes.
Second of all, I do like the idea about making the back solid if you want it to. But you want to know the use case for this?
Yes.
The use case is William Silver watching soccer on a Saturday and working on his laptop and being able to look through the laptop and watch soccer. So that is the use case.
I can respect that. That's fair. Granted.
So I watch TV and work on my laptop all the time. And if I could see through my laptop when I wanted to just by a flick of a button, that would be awesome.
I swore that you were going to say something to the effect of make it a touch screen and it can be an overpriced cat toy.
That too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
In the air, things flying in the air.
Yeah.
To your earlier point, Gray, I think the tech here, if they can miniaturize this, you could see this actually in AR, VR headsets, and it would be handy for actual headset heads-up displays, not just laptop-based heads-up displays. I mean, there's variations of a theme used in cars, for example, but that's more of like a projection type thing. This is being emitted somehow. I don't know how if it's being emitted from the bottom or what, but it looks cool, and sometimes it takes years, if not decades, for concepts to actually arrive in the consumer space. But it's fun to see them push the envelope. I just hope it's not one of these things where they just show it year after year, like this freaking bendable wrist phone.
Well, bendable screens were at CES for like 5 years, like the circular screens and the foldable screens and all that stuff. Like when, and I know CES is like this in general, but like, have those ever appeared? Like the like foldable.
Well, we got
screens
we got the foldable, like the Samsung Galaxy Flip and Fold, and then the Google Pixel one, and
but a TV.
Yeah, the TV, and like, really, what's the point? I mean, the one that we were talking about in January, that one was like $100,000. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like they were talking about TVs forever, and those never came to fruition. So,
but sometimes this tech makes its way into products in ways we don't expect. You may recall ages ago we saw all the non-rectangular LCD displays that Sharp was creating. It's like, oh, cool. And what are they for? We eventually started to see them in dashes on newer cars, right? But it's this question of getting the technology to a point where it works properly, getting the kinks worked out, getting the prices down, and then getting them into the supply chain and the design process for some like auto manufacturers. They have like years long lead times. I would say PC manufacturers somewhat less. So maybe we'll see something like this in the next couple of years, but I'm not going to hold my breath. It's just cool to look at and think about a little bit. Speaking of cool new things, Nintendo Direct also happened, where we get all sorts of news from the Nintendo universe, which largely revolves around the Switch. Although I saw a YouTube video from Modern Vintage Gamer last week talking about how the Wii U of all devices was making a bit of a comeback as a good little homebrew device and emulator package. So they can be picked up real cheap nowadays. Wii U is kind of considered by many to be a bit of a flop after the massive success of the Wii. And of course, Nintendo picked up the ball again with the Nintendo Switch, although I was personally very skeptical of it at the time. This is something that can be mobile and you can plug it into your TV and these things pop off the sides and controllers and blah, blah, blah. But I was wrong, and it's been a monster. Now, Will, you've got a Nintendo Switch. What from we've seen in the highlights? Actually, I'll just do a speed run for some of the highlights we've got. Well, what sort of games are we talking about? Oh, new Super Monkey Ball. I'm kind of stoked for that. Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. Let's see. Killer Instinct, Battletoads, Battle Maniacs. Everything old is new again here. We got Disney Epic Mickey rebrushed. Okay, remakes of the 2010 Wii exclusive. Like Hollywood, is the video game world out of ideas now? Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Okay, so number 5. That's revamped from a game from 3 years ago. Endless Ocean Luminous. South Park Snow Day, Ender Magnolia, Bloom in the Mist. These are just again, this is a 3-year-old game that's kind of being remastered. A new a game called Mother 3 Remake. Is it all remakes? What is even happening? Let's see in this other story here. Anything else that we didn't catch? Oh, another Crab's Treasure. This sounds like this might be new IP. And who doesn't like underwater video games? Will, from what we've talked about here, or anything we may have missed, anything jump out at you from Nintendo Direct?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say there's not a lot of huge announcements here, if you ask me. A lot of this is, adding just to the Nintendo catalog for, purchasing online and streaming and all that from their store. The big one for me is Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront. That is, to me, a classic game, the first 2 installments. They created a couple debacles a few years ago, but these were really good, really classic games. I played the first one just a ton. So I'm a huge fan of these games. It would be nice to see a remastering as well. It sounds like it's not so much of a remastering as a re-release. But I would be super stoked to play these games. They are really well done. It's a shame that we never got a proper 3rd edition, and the ones that they came out with a couple years ago were not great. So I'm super stoked for that particular announcement. Otherwise, I mean, Super Monkey Ball. Apparently, there's people that love that game, so cool. But yeah, other than that, I didn't see anything that was too mind blowing. There was some stuff about some Rare, the Studio Rare re-releases like Killer Instinct, which is one of the most 90s games that you will ever see. And Battletoads, which is also one of the most 90s games that you will ever see. So, I mean, cool. But yeah, Battlefront is the one that I'm most psyched about.
Great. When you see events like this and the nature of so many of the games, re-releases, the occasional remaster, stuff coming over from other platforms eventually, do we think that the video game industry hit its Hollywood moment and truly run out of ideas, or is this just an ebb this year as opposed to flow that we see in some year? Like last year was a monster year for new games.
Yeah. So we're entering the end phase of a console era, right? So the PlayStation 5, the Xbox, whatever.
Series S and Series X, great name.
Lame.
Whatever. They're on their way to being last gen, as opposed to current gen or next.
Feels like they just came out.
I know. That's because we're getting older, and every day is a smaller and smaller percentage of our lives, and we're just dying slowly.
Perfect.
Wait. So like looking at this, it's fascinating to see how game developers are starting to change. You know, I heard a story recently about how at a lot of game shows, might be here, I don't know, my memory's going, but kids were rocking up to demo stations. Will, did you tell the story where they weren't, they had controllers there instead of keyboards and mice, and the iPad generation was reaching out to touch the screen?
Yeah. I've heard that. Yeah.
So like looking at this, you mentioned Mother 3. Now, I think I showed you guys the coasters that we made here. That was part of, it was for Earthbound. There's an entire generation out there for whom, like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, even GameCube titles are like listening to Buddy Holly for the first time.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're just like, what? This is it. This is awesome. This is amazing. And it's yes, it's retro, and yes, it's oldies, but it's cool. The idea that you can take those games and remake them. We live in a world where the code isn't going to be interpreted differently than the original performance, because it's going to be it's about the experience. It's not about the performance. So remaking these things, especially if you can capture a new audience, if you can take the flaws of these original games, which either preserve them in some cases, which they've done with some games like Final Fantasy VII, there was basically the graphics layer was an overlay on it that you could turn off, so you could experience the nostalgic PlayStation 1 graphics, or you could have a new updated system. So has Hollywood experience, has the gaming industry experienced this Hollywood moment? I think it did a while ago. Right. There are thinking that game development happens like the way that it does with just major studios in Hollywood is actually, I think, a really exciting thing, because it means that gaming still hasn't really broken through to the mainstream. Right?
Despite the fact it makes more money than the movie industry and the music industry combined.
Well, that's because of creative accounting and God rest their souls. But here's the thing. I think sometimes it's good to take a breath. Right? I haven't played Destiny in like 6 months. I'm proudly Destiny free. Hi, my name is Gray, and I'm a Destiny ad. Anyway,
how's it affected your productivity?
Oh my God! I built the Eiffel Tower to matchsticks this morning. That might be the coffee. So in any case, I think it's good to take a breath. I'm glad to see that we're doing it. It's also really great for game developers to not be experiencing constant crunch. It's also really great to see independent game developers. My friend Blake and his brother are working on a new game that's name escapes me right now, but they're working on a new game. The idea of like smaller studios creating new, like, great things. This is the breath. This is the moment. You know what I hope for? I hope we're about to hit the 1990s of cinema in gaming. That's what I want. I hope it's there.
A Titanic moment, perhaps?
Very nicely done. I was thinking stories told in the vein of Pulp Fiction. Big year. 1994. That's that year. Forrest Gump.
One game that folks like to see if they can run on everything.
I don't understand this at all.
Pocket calculator to bacteria, as Will and I chatted about recently, is Doom. And apparently there is I believe a Husqvarna Automower. It's an autonomous lawnmower that they proudly proclaim that will run Doom. We have to sign up to download the software by September 9th. It won't be available for US residents, but I guess just internationally. I guess Husqvarna, they're big in Europe. But
Pierce Brosnan in the Lawnmower Man. Pierce Brosnan.
Yes.
Yeah. Horror film about cyberspace. Yeah, this isn't going to end poorly at all.
Husqvarna is involved. Like they've got their logo on it.
Yeah, this is like they're just leaning into it. I mean, I guess you got to.
I thought this was just some nerd who figured it out.
They've got some nerds working there, and they're like, okay, this is how we get people to buy our $1,000 plus robotic lawnmowers.
Because God knows they can't find a Doom on the name.
Exactly. I got a vowel. So I mean, I guess it gives you something to do on it while, or you're supposed to like chase it around the yard and play. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's just like one of those things. Oh, it's because we can. I remember back in the early 2000s, people were hacking Kodak digital cameras to be able to run like Pac-Man on them on the screen, which was always fun. We did that with the company
I thought
device.
Super Mario was the one that everyone tried to run right away.
Yeah. That one as well. It depends on the capabilities of the device we're talking about. Of course, Doom is challenging because of the 3D aspect. But
can I tell you what would get me to do this? We got me to buy the lawnmower sent for the program and actually do it. First of all, one, having a lawn. Secondly, if it played the music from episode 1, map 1, right? When you get this, audio podcast listeners, you can't see my face right now. God, it's good. So if you
maybe an acapella version is in order, Gray.
You know what? How about this? For next week, I will find you the Flopotron playing Doom E1 M1 because it is a symphony of glorious.
All right. Well, speaking of vintage video games, the Video Game History Foundation is turning its expansive collection into something you can browse for home. This is another example of the marvel of online communities and efforts, not only things like Wikipedia, but with the Internet Archive, which is hosting not just cached versions of website snapshots, but even things like old software, old manuals, games. I was playing with another website recently, which lets you run basically any vintage version of the classic Mac OS. So the Video Game History Foundation. Check out. We'll have a link in their in our show notes here. But their mission is to preserve, celebrate, and teach the history of video games. And it's kind of cool to be able to go to sites like this and play games online, classic games, but also look at things like old box art, manuals, behind the scenes illustrations. How they how they chose which face of Bart Simpson to use in a pixel art in the Simpsons video game, for example. So that's just one little example of what's being featured on TheVerge.com this week as part of their Physical Media Week. So we've been talking about physical media a couple of weeks ago, and then I think more also last fall as well. How some folks are deciding that because some publishers can turn off access to things that we think we're buying, especially if they're stored in the cloud, that some folks are going back to actually owning media, whether it's video games or movies or the like. One article on The Verge is about limited run games, which Will has told us about a couple of times. And there's another article on someone with streaming fatigue, so they've gone back to buying DVDs. Not even Blu-rays, DVDs. So some 480p goodness there. So if you want to get your physical media fix, check out some of the stuff from The Verge this week for Physical Media Week, which is just a thing they invented.
Nice.
But we have more entertainment news, and it's tied into gaming. And Will was very excited about this. Unfortunately, the trailer just dropped last Wednesday, the day after we recorded last week's episode. Kate Blanchett stuns in the first look at the inevitably bad Borderlands movie. Oh,
hey now,
Gizmodo.
Hey now,
Gizmodo with their
Gizmodo.
spicy takes. That's their brand. Tell us about Borderlands and its setting and what your hopes and dreams are for this movie.
Well, I'm a huge fan of the games. Huge fan. It really was. At the time, the first one kind of a little bit came out of nowhere. It was kind of a surprise smash hit. And I think I've talked about this with Starfield and with Fallout. I have a real loot collecting problem, and this game is one of the quintessential examples because there's randomized weapons and gear, and basically there's practically an infinite array of possibilities that you can collect. Means that you just have to constantly collect a bunch of stuff, and that is right my addictive wheelhouse. But for me, this was really exciting to see things like that flying bat, I forget the name of it, and the pirates and all the characters. Particularly I think that's from the second and third one, most of these characters, but You know, I thought it was quite fun. It looks good to me. It's really got the spirit of it. I mean, Claptrap, who's the little robot, is a classic, iconic character, and Jack Black's doing the voice, and I'm psyched for that. So, I mean, Gizmodo, stop giving a hot take where no one's asking for it. It's a trailer. It looks great. We'll see what it turns out to be.
Interesting cast, including Kevin Hart and Jamie Lee Curtis, among others, and of course,
I'm all
Kate
in.
Blanchett.
I'm all in. By the way, I want to see this bad. So
this would be fun one to see in the theaters for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Grace, again, so back to our common theme is Hollywood for years has been mining books, literature. It's itself doing remakes, and then in the last couple of decades, or of course, that comic books, and then more recently, they're finally started doing a better job of video game adaptations after a few missteps. Super Mario Brothers movie from Bob Hoskins,
the original, not the new one.
Yeah, exactly. So so they of course corrected, but it's just like everyone is Hollywood out of ideas. Does this do you get excited when you see video game IP turned into movies, or do you think it should, this should stay in its lane?
Well, so it's tough. Like there's like famous characters like this where there's like a mystery, and they're pursuing it, and there's a great deal of source material to draw from. It's really nice that it's gone public. That's Sherlock Holmes. We've always done this, right? Like the inherent nature of transitioning through new media as it develops is to take from old media. Right?
Everything is a remix.
Stories to each other. If we didn't actually adapt things from one thing to the next, our culture would grind to a halt. The oral tradition is not the only way that we pass things on. This is awesome, right? Sad moments here. They did not get David Eddings for the voice of Claptrap. I love Jack Black. David Eddings, perfect in the voice. Unfortunately, Randy Pitchford is, I believe I pronounced this correct, a dick, and so they weren't paying him enough. There's a whole kerfuffle brouhaha, allegedly. And so we don't have the original voice of Claptrap, which was pitch perfect. He's the most annoying video game sidekick on the planet. I love him. And so
Scrappy Doo.
Jack Black's got large wheel to fill. I do really I like a couple of things here. The bad guy looks fairly generic, which is fine because who cares? It's about the guns. I'm looking forward to the opportunity of cosplaying either as Kate Blanchett or Jamie Lee Curtis in this, because that's pretty much what my options are in this one. It's either that or the main villain.
You can't do Kevin Hart.
It's going to give me a new use for my Lilu wig, so that's fantastic. Just a ton of hairspray. We're good to go on that. So, is this going to be great? In my opinion, probably the best adaptation of Borderlands since the original game itself, which was, of course, adapted from the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Will, you have one more thought before?
Will, you might have noticed this.
Mm-hmm.
Did they give away the final fight in the trailer?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. There's a thing, and I'm like, I'm hoping that's the midpoint of the movie, because the ending of the first game, kind of shit. Right, story-wise, it's like,
well, the first game didn't have much story. The second one expanded on the story and had more characters. And I think most of these characters are from the third one, like Tiny Tina and stuff like that.
Did you notice Mad Moxie in the trailer?
Yes, I did notice Mad Moxie. Yeah. Right. That's an add-on. It's
it's only if you pay for the DLC during the film. Otherwise, they just block
DLC.
it out for you. I'm sorry.
Mom, Dad, DLC equals downloadable content.
Yes.
Will, did you have something to add before we move on?
Yeah, the other thing I really appreciate about this, and it's something I like in movies in general, and I'm always wanting Star Wars to do this, is get a team together. I love teams. I love getting a motley crew together and doing an adventure, because this game is not necessarily one that's a group. It's like I always played it by myself. You can do co-op, but I think the experience of the game is mostly by yourself. So I love that it's a group of them going together. And that's always what I thought Star Wars needs to do more of is, like Star Wars Rebels, get a group and follow them and their personalities and their interactions. And that's one of the strengths I thought about Rogue One. So I love it when you get a team together. So I think that's the other part of this that I'm super psyched about, is that it's not just following one character. We get an ensemble of like really good actors. These are good actors or comedians that have real chops. Like, I saw a lot of people saying, like, how'd they get Kate Blanchett to do this movie? Like, so
she was hella.
It's true.
In Thor and What If.
She'll be hella good in this too.
Exactly.
Hella good,
She's leaning in. Might as well.
We should.
So that was my point. I love teams.
Yeah, we should do some bro up with this. This game quintessentially is best experienced as a co-op experience. Let's play.
I was playing it solo, but that's me.
Counterpoint on the team movies, Eternals. Anyhow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that wasn't done poorly.
That wasn't a team. That was
for
a
Suicide Squad.
Yeah. I like the Suicide Squad. I like both Suicide Squads.
The Suicide
Squad was a fair bit better than the first.
The second one was better.
Yeah.
First one,
because the first one was good.
Yeah.
The twist was bad in the first one.
Yeah. So often what Marvel did really well at the outset was doing the individual movies where you get to know the characters and then bring them together after a few, as opposed to dumping a whole bunch of new characters at people at once, especially if you want a mainstream appeal. So it's as long as you don't screw things up too badly, you can get like the Borderlands fans, but that's not going to make you a profitable movie. You need to make this interesting for normies, right? Like, I don't know anything about Borderlands. I'm interested. I like Kate Blanchett. I mean, I'm game. It looks kind of cool, as up my alley, but I have zero expectations, which I kind of like, because I won't be disappointed if they don't get certain details right from the games. But it's got to have enough appeal for people, and hence some of the casting, like Jack Black and whatnot.
This is meta, because it's basically like a loot drop in Borderlands. It may be epic. It may be crap. We don't know.
All right. There's more to come on this, not exactly the same genre. It's a bit more in space, but something that people are. I'm cautiously optimistic, but Gray, you discovered, and I didn't even realize, I was checking for this a week or two ago, but season 5 trailer has dropped for Star Trek Discovery. And it sounded like you were pretty excited. So what can you tell us about the vibes you were getting from the trailer for season 5?
Okay, so this is getting the band back together for one last run. This is the enterpriseification of Discovery, because for fifth season, we're going to the bang. They had to reshoot the ending of the season because they did not get renewed for a 6th. But to be quite honest, like, this show has been so divisive because people have different opinions, I suppose. Some of those opinions are wrong. It also has it's had a very varied focus. Say that 10 times fast. Looking at where I think we can go ahead and talk about what's going on here. It's spoilers if you haven't watched the 3rd season of Discovery, but they're in the far-flung future. Say that 10 times fast. And it was kind of like, this is where no one has gone before. Cool, neat, weird, awesome, strange. Last season was Arrival, and that's kind of cool. But this season apparently is Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones with heart and feelings. And probably a lot of talking about feelings. It's Discovery, after all. But I'm here for it. Couple of crazy things. People have said, is it the Iconians? It looks like you can see things from the mirror universe, but then again, it's Star Trek. You're all going to have some mirror universe in there somewhere.
Oh, there's a goatee lurking just around the corner.
Oh,
no! One thing that has been floated, which I am very excited about, because they've touched on it in the 1st season. So it's a nice little bookend. There was a Constitution-class starship that went missing in the original series and in our Prime universe. That ship is the USS Defiant. Now, it has been since the name of the tough little ship that both Benjamin Sisko and Worf and even Nog captained at one point.
in Deep Space Nine, right? That's when Deep
In
Space Nine got
Nine.
good. Is when they could
Yeah,
leave
but
the
that's the
freaking
ship,
station
man.
once in a while.
Get off the station.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Abandon the original premise.
I think it was good from the second season onwards, but that's just me. The
I
first
like the
season
whole
was-
run. The first season was kind of weird, but I enjoyed it.
As soon as
Yeah,
Cisco shaved his head, boom.
like shave the head,
Game
grow the
changer.
beard, good to go.
Yep.
So looking at this, it might be that perhaps they bring the Defiant back into the Prime universe in the 32nd century. Maybe, possibly, potentially, or maybe not. Who knows? I'm excited. It's looking cool. It's looking neat. You got what, 10, 13 episodes? For those of you out there that don't like Discovery, they're your feelings too. And I understand that.
I think feelings are okay. I think one of the legit criticisms of Discovery is that sometimes it was like
when we touch
they inappropriately timed. It's like, oh hi, we're Earth is in peril, and we're gonna have like a 5-minute like cry session. Like, no, we got a job to do here. This is let's get things on track.
That said, a lot of those solutions come out of those 5-minute cry sessions, and maybe if we were all to process our trauma as it was happening, we'd have less PTSD and just have more current trauma stress disorder.
Unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, I think when you dropped off due to technical issues, we talked about a little bit, some details leaking about Star Trek Section 31 series.
Oh yeah,
which I mean, my hope was that maybe they have some sort of connection here, but since they're 900 years in the future, maybe that's not going to happen. But it would be nice for them to have some connective tissue. Maybe they'll do it with Enterprise. We'll see. But I'm stoked for Section 31 because it's dark. Sorry?
If anybody can make it 900 years, it is the Mirror Universe Empress Giorgio.
Exactly. Well, I mean,
I'm here for it.
She's everywhere all at once. Anyway, so good stuff. Well, I'm Will. I know that you've been up and down on Star Trek Discovery, because it's been uneven. I mean, it started off strong. I liked it, even though they changed. I'm
not saying it's good. I'm just saying I like it. Just so we're clear.
Are you up to date, Will? And will you be watching season 5 of Star Trek Discovery?
So I won't. I watched the first few seasons. I actually didn't mind most of the first season. I certainly had my problems with it. But season 2, I really went off the train. I'm not really a huge fan of it. I mean, we're all entitled to our opinions, and like the other thing is like we all enjoy different things. Some people love that it's a fresh take. I kind of, for me, the series is it Brave New World? I always mess up the name.
Strange New World.
Strange New World. I always want to say Brave New World, but Strange New World.
Different book and TV series, and not.
I mean that's my jam, right? It's a crew that likes each other. It's a happy universe. It's very Rodberian. I love it, and that for me is much more the experience where it's a group. And
you may want to check out season 3 and 4.
Yeah, no, I'm done.
They bond.
I'm just like, there's so many problems with that show. So, I mean, like, I really choked my way through season 2, and like, I just was like, I'm done.
Well,
so I don't like the characters. It's just not my jam.
Here's the thing: is I think they understood that, because the first season was supposed to be an anthology series, right? And then it made this hard left-hand turn, and then they got 3 more episodes, and that's where a bunch of the tacked-on weirdness that came out at the end. Which is just like, pardon me, but Lorca was way better when he just had PTSD and was like messed up.
Not a Klingon.
Oh no, you think about Ash Tyler.
Oh, Ash Tyler.
Actually, there is precedent for that in the original series. Just saying.
No, I know the character.
I don't love it, but
yeah,
it's there's a precedent for it. The Klingons did some weird stuff.
I just also disliked the Klingons in general, and like their characterization and like a bunch of that, and it was very confusing about the timelines. And
second season was basically just set up Strange New Worlds, which it did.
Yeah,
that's fine. The third season is basically like when Discovery kind of got a chance to step out of canon and do its own thing, like having to pay attention to like what was going on with the run. Like, it's just, they were juggling too much. It wasn't for that show. Third season, they kind of gel, and the bad guy in the end of the third season's like, that's pretty cool. It's not the end of the universe. It's just they are facing, it's like their Star Trek 2 moment. It's decent. The fourth season is neat. it actually and they're not liking each other and all that stuff. It's all gone by the third season. They get each other. And all this cataclysmic state of the universe that we know couldn't happen because the universe is still here is all gone. And then there are stakes. And the fourth season is stakes.
I just can't stand the characters. I just hate them. I was totally done by second season.
You may find them more palatable because of the growth that they went through in the first two seasons. They're less annoying. A lot less annoying.
I have to say, I am a huge Star Trek fan. I think you guys know this. I'm a massive, massive Star Trek fan. In high school was pretty much my main thing. I've seen all the episodes, pretty much multiple times of original series, Next Generation, Enterprise, DS9. I'm a huge fan, and I just
the animated series
connect with this. Sorry.
The animated
Not
series?
the animated series. I did watch a couple episodes. I actually read those crazy books as a kid. I used to get them same from the library, and they were just original series pictures with speech bubbles. Did you ever see those? I was obsessed with those.
Honestly, here's the thing. As a Trekkie or Trekker, depending on how you identify,
Trekkie.
Just try the first couple episodes of season 3. If you're not taking it, try the first couple episodes of season 4. At least you've tasted it, and you're like, no, I will not have it, right? But if you don't, it's just they did change so much, and it's just I feel like as a fellow Trekkie, I don't want you to miss out on what's good there. There's good there.
I will take your word for it.
All right. So, momentous picks this week. Will is, despite the fact he may not be a merry man when it comes to Star Trek Discovery.
I am not a merry man. We don't ever talk about it. Yes.
Oh, hello. Have you read any good books lately?
We're going to move over. We're going to move over to the Star Wars universe, and your momentous pick this week, Will, is the Bad Batch,
season 3.
The final season.
It is spectacular. I've only seen the first 3 episodes. I think we might have a 4th now. Just I like the first 2 seasons, but this is starting off really, really just powerful, really compelling. And it's really this isn't a huge spoiler, I don't think. We've seen this throughout all the seasons, an exploration of what happens to the clones, the clone army, once the Empire comes in and sort of they're not needed anymore. It's heartbreaking. It's interesting. It's fascinating. I just can't say enough good things about this series in general, but the first 3 episodes just have been spectacular. I've enjoyed them so much. So I'm really looking forward. I think there's 15 episodes. Someone want to correct me or agree with me? You said, yeah, great. Yeah, so 15 episodes. So I'm psyched. We'll see where it goes. Maybe it starts going downhill after this, but I've just thoroughly enjoyed the first 3 episodes. So
we know where this is going. Right?
Yes, generally.
They're obviously they're trying to clone Sheev. That's the whole M count thing. Have you read the Heir to the Empire books?
I have not read the books.
Oh my heavens! Okay, I've got a copy here. I'm going to lend you. These are now legends. But this is what introduced us to Grand Admiral Thrawn, right? Our Chiss Grand Admiral.
Is that the blue dude?
In those books, he is attempting to clone Luke Skywalker. He's already cloned a Jedi named Jorah Sabath. He's attempting to clone Luke Skywalker. And what they found is, in this particular, that you can create clones by basically pushing the Force away from their growth. That's how this is all before the water planet and whatnot. On the cover,
Camino,
on the cover of Heir to the Empire is a mountain called Mount Tantus that looks just like the cloning facility that's in the first 3 episodes. It's it's the thing, because they brought back a bunch of legend stuff. So I'm just sitting here what parts of Heir to the Empire are they going to pull into this? I'm so freaking stoked. And if there's one person that can take my somewhat mid satisfaction of the sequels, it's going to be Dave Filoni. In Dave we trust.
Well, and this is basically this whole series, and even Mandalorian, they've brought up cloning and M counts and all that kind of fun stuff. So it definitely is trying to, I guess, make apologies or help make it more sense after the fact. The end of Rise of Skywalker. So
he's like an architect coming in, putting in buttresses underneath things to like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people said that basically the Clone Wars series and Rebels was fixing everything that went wrong in the prequels. So now with Mandalorian and with Bad Batch, he's fixing everything that was wrong with the postquels.
Yes, and at that point, the apprentice will become the master, and he will get a 9-trilogy of his own.
Well, if you want to keep up on all things Star Wars, we recommend a YouTube channel from a friend of the show. So a couple of reasons separation. Friend of the show, Ged Smythe, has a friend named Tyler, known as Rogue Leader. And he has a YouTube channel where he breaks down all sorts of things related to Star Wars and sometimes other stuff like The Last of Us or the House of the Dragon in the Game of Thrones universe. And he does live streams with Ged once in a while as well. But he had a recent episode where he broke down the season 3 trailer. And I'm sure there will be some follow-up episodes of his talking about the season overall. So if you haven't checked it out yet, we'll drop a link in the description of the show notes regarding Rogue Leader for all things Star Wars and more. Gray, your pick of the week. You alluded to it a little earlier, and in the context of building Eiffel Towers.
This is the Braun Pure Flavor Coffee Maker, the KF5650.
That's a nice looking unit.
Automated coffee making function. It is delightful, and I found this at a thrift store for $19.99.
Oh wow,
that's a downside cheaper than $99.99. You saved $80.
It still had the warranty card in the box.
It's like Temu.
Like it was new. It still got a 1-year warranty on it. I love it. So delightful little machine. Got a grinder off of Amazon, and now I've got coffee all day, and I don't have to make it like espresso, which I still love making, but still, it's wonderful. And so it's just a lovely little machine. Apparently there is a version at Costco that has a backlit screen, which is the only complaint that I have about it. So I'm going to open it up and put an LED backlight into it at some point. No, I'm not going to do that.
No, that would be awesome if you did. I mean, like, that's hardcore.
I'm tempted. I got a whole drawer full like Arduino parts that I'm like, So, but yes, it's delightful. And just on, not like I've had too much coffee today, but I was actually thinking about starting my own Star Wars channel with like a Scottish accent and calling it Rogue Leader. Back to you, Tristan.
What up, Bob?
I got to say, I love the industrial design of this classic Braun style. One question for you, however, Gray, is that one of the concerns that people have about drip coffee makers with heat plates is that if they sit there long enough, it can scorch the coffee over time. What have there been recent advancements in temperature control or something so that coffee doesn't taste like but by the end of the day, or just drink it fast enough?
And it's just, the answer is drink more freaking coffee. Like, what's wrong with you? I make 4 cups in the morning, 4 cups in the afternoon. I'm fine.
Have you considered decaf?
I've considered
Fresh pots.
Terrible idea. Fresh pots. Death before decaf, as always.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sticking with our kitchen theme, this is one I've had in the hopper for a little while, and it's kind of fun and dumb, but it's from Google, and it's called Emoji Kitchen. And this is like a wild little thing where you can basically pick 2 different emojis, and it will mash them up for you. So you could take a frowny face and a video game alien, and it makes. Or sorry, that's not a frowny.
Like the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah. Now exactly. Now we've got we got a monkey face plus a video game alien, and now we ended up with a pixely monkey face. So let's try. Okay, we got a heart, and we got a sloth. That's still monkey face. You got to click on one. Okay, where did our heart go? Here's our heart, and then here's our sloth. Now we got a heart with a sloth face, right? How about a spider hot dog? What happens there? Oh boy, nightmare fuel.
Look, it's Costco.
Oh jeez. Oh gross. I can never unsay.
So, you can hit a randomize. Okay, how about a smiley face with sunglasses? Now with the spider. Now the spider's like sunglasses. We'll do a smiley face with sunglasses and a let's do a goose. Look, now the goose has sunglasses. Like it's remarkable. Like just the way it mashes these things together. And I don't know what voodoo is behind the scenes, or if they had to manually set all this stuff up. But if you want to kill a little bit of time, you know, do up yourself some custom emoji that you can save and then throw into conversations to blow people's minds. Check out Google's Emoji Kitchen. We will have a link for that in the show notes as well. Good dumb fun. Our momentous projects this week. William, you have a new looper for us.
Yeah, and I've actually been already getting a ton of compliments and people sending me messages saying they love this one. So I was really kind of blown away. And I think I mentioned this before, but the retro loopers that I do are some of my favorites. So they're retro in the sense that they're kind of old school. I use a lot of 808s and cowbells and old synths like Junos and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I really enjoy this old school beats, electro, old school hip hop, electronic. Yeah, so check it out on Table Beats, Table Beats app or tableist.net. Look for me, Molotov, and Retro Looper 6.
Where you can find and listen to such classics as Pants Off, Dance Off and Raw Diggity. Good stuff.
And Till the Cowbells Come Home is one of my favorite titles.
Our partner in crime, our long-lost partner in crime, Tasia Custodi, is still buried in course making. She has another YouTube video for us this week, the best travel tech of 2024. So she's taking a break from shilling for Google and doing some travel tech. And she's actually going to be going away soon. You can rob her house. But you can
cold.
So hence the travel tips in anticipation of her trip. Speaking of Tasia, you can find her work at www.tasiacustodi.com or youtube.com/Tasia Custodi. And speaking of Tasia, she and I have another episode of our other little side gig podcast called AI Named This Show. Our most recent episode was AI language processing units, or LPUs, new chips on the block. So we talk about some whoopsie doopsies from ChatGPT and Google Gemini last week, but also a new Grok, G-R-O-Q, nothing to do with XAI's Grok, G-R-O-K, but this is a company that's created some LPUs, language processing units, to speed up large language models by up to 50x, which is remarkable. But the problem is it's only working with open source models at the moment. So they got to sell their chips to some of the big boys. And some of those open source models are not nearly as good. So we actually do a number of tests in the episode and see who the winner is by tuning in to AINamedThisShow.com. All right, gentlemen, if you want to hear about you and those who love you want to find out more about us at Momentous, they can visit Momentous.tv. Don't forget the www because we're old school, but it'll get there even if you do skip it. And there's various tabs there that you can explore. You can learn about the team and follow us on our individual socials at Momentous.tv/team. Look at those good-looking folks there. At the Momentous.tv/podcast to follow the podcast on your podcast platform of choice. And of course, Momentous.tv/links to follow us on all the socials. Gentlemen, we did it.
Woo!
Woo!
Great work. So until next time, we hope your week is truly momentous.